You could walk into almost any American town and find a place that didn't care who you were or what you knew. It was just shelves, endless drawers, and the promise that no question was too small to ask. RadioShack wasn't just a store. It was the neighborhood's default laboratory, quietly training generations to turn confusion into capability. When nearly 7,000 of these places vanished, what disappeared wasn't just retail space. It was a public invitation to curiosity itself. What exactly did we lose when we lost the right to wander and wonder out loud? At its height, RadioShack stretched across nearly every American town, with close to 7,000 stores by the early 1990s. The doors were never guarded by purpose or expectation. People wandered in on their way home from work after school or just because they were nearby. Some came for a single battery, others with nothing in mind at all. For over a decade, a small cardboard card, stamped with the promise of one free battery every month, became a quiet ritual. Kids would tug at a parent's sleeve, card in hand, waiting for the clerk to punch the date and drop a fresh AA battery into their palm. The stop was brief, but it was enough. In that moment, the store belonged to everyone. The retiree with a ham radio question, the teenager eyeing a soldering kit, the parent trying to fix a remote. No one needed to explain why they were there. The act of walking in was its own reason. Overheard advice drifted from the counter, and shelves and drawers waited with silent permission to browse, to touch, to wonder. For many, RadioShack was not just another errand. It was a pause in the day, a place where curiosity did not need an appointment. Rows of small, translucent drawers lined the walls, each one labeled with codes for resistors, capacitors, diodes, and fuses, offering a tactile invitation. Pulling open a drawer, feeling the tiny parts shift and rattle inside, made complexity feel approachable. Manuals rested beside the objects they explained, not locked behind glass or hidden on a website, but placed for anyone to flip through. Heavy catalogs lay open on counters, their pages crowded with diagrams and lists, bridging the gap between what was on the shelf and what could be imagined. Schematic racks stood within reach, their dog-eared corners evidence of hundreds of hands searching for the right answer. The space was dense, but never forbidding. Every surface seemed to say, "Touch this, try this, see what happens." Even the clutter, scattered wires, half-assembled kits, handwritten notes taped to bins, hinted at unfinished stories waiting for someone to pick them up. Nothing was optimized for speed. The drawers did not snap shut, and the manuals invited lingering. The store's physical design made wandering not just possible, but inevitable. It was not about finding exactly what you needed. It was about discovering what you did not know you wanted. In that environment, curiosity became less of a decision and more of a reflex. At the counter, explanations happened out time and in real time. A question, sometimes barely formed, would drift across the glass, and a staff member would answer by reaching for a part, a wire, or a tool. There was no script. Learning took the shape of whatever problem walked in that day. A bench technician might show how to strip a wire, or solder two leads together, right in front of anyone who happened to be nearby. The demonstration itself rarely lasted more than a few minutes, long enough to see smoke curl from the tip of the iron, short enough to invite the next question. Sometimes a small crowd would gather, drawn by the smell of heated metal or the quiet focus of the person explaining. The staff were rarely formal experts. Many learned on the job, picking up tricks from manuals and each other, sharing what they knew because someone else had once done the same for them. Training manuals from the 1970s encouraged employees to be patient with beginners, and most were. Mistakes were not corrected with a sigh. They were fixed with a second try, or a new part pulled from a drawer. The counter became a kind of public workbench. Curiosity was not private. It was something people did together, out loud, in plain view. A parent might ask about a broken toy, a retiree about a ham radio circuit, a teenager about a kit that looked too complicated. Each answer made not knowing feel normal. The store did not just tolerate confusion, it made it ordinary, and even a little bit welcome. A starter kit sat on a shelf, the science fair 150 in 1, its cover promising 100 projects, most of them unpronounceable to a child. The breadboard inside was not sealed or intimidating. It invited mistakes. Wires could be pulled and rethreaded, resistors swapped, circuits rebuilt from scratch. The manual was a small book, dense with diagrams, but it never assumed you knew what you were doing. Each page paired instructions with a challenge, leaving just enough space for a question to form. For many, the kit was the first time electronics felt like something you could try, not just watch. Stories echo across decades. A kid wanders in, asks about the blinking lights on the box, and leaves with a kit tucked under one arm. At home, the kitchen table becomes a workbench. The first project, a simple radio, might not work the first time. But the process of flipping back through the manual, tracing each wire, and discovering a missed connection made the outcome feel earned. Overheard advice from the store, like try a different capacitor or don't force the wire, echoed in the background, turning confusion into progress. Confidence built quietly, almost by accident. A single project led to another, then another. Soon, the same kid might return to the store with a half-formed question, or even to explain a fix to someone else. The early kits were designed for this loop. Curiosity sparked by wandering, skill shaped by trial, and the steady realization that tinkering was not just allowed, but expected. The store's environment made it possible for a question to become a habit, and for a habit to become capability that lasted far beyond the walls of RadioShack. By the mid-1990s, the store's atmosphere began to change. New floor plans arrived from headquarters, calling for the removal of many of the parts bins and drawers that once lined the walls. In their place, shelves filled with boxed gadgets and pre-packaged electronics promised higher margins and faster sales. Staff who once spent time explaining circuits were now urged to move customers quickly toward checkout. Commission structures shifted the focus. Selling a single cell phone could mean an extra $20, sometimes even $50 for the employee, far more than a handful of resistors or a starter kit. A retail strategist, looking back, described it plainly. The goal became efficiency, not exploration. The cluttered counters and open manuals gave way to displays designed for speed. What had once been an invitation to linger turned into a push for turnover. The experience of learning by accident was quietly traded for the logic of the bottom line. After the last stores went dark, nothing quite stepped into the space RadioShack left behind. Today, if you want to tinker or learn hands-on, you might find a makerspace or a workshop at the library, but these places often require a membership, a reservation, or a specific project in mind. The open door, the casual drift from curiosity to discovery, is gone. An educator describes it as a missing layer in public life, a place where you could be uncertain in front of others, and that was fine. Retail now rewards speed and certainty. Schools measure outcomes. Online forums offer answers, but only to those who know the right question to type. The quiet, accidental learning that happened in the aisles, overheard, unplanned, shared, has no real equivalent. It wasn't just nostalgia that faded. It was a way of becoming capable together in public. Today, learning is often solitary, optimized, efficient, and silent. But public spaces that embraced uncertainty once made capability feel possible for everyone. As algorithms streamline curiosity into clicks, the loss is quiet but real. Confidence is not just built online. Sometimes it needs a place to wander. Share your memories below.